The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat. The Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
Welcome to On the Mat. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with a man who will never be caught in a snowstorm because he'll be driving out of it so fast, Doug Van Gelder. How are you, Doug?
Well, I'm fine. I'm glad you learned that lesson about me.
Well, the reason this came up is because I got an email from a guy. His name is Jeff Covington. He stopped by the museum with his son Grant, I'm going to say 2 months ago. I was going to bring this up last week, but you weren't here. So we have to do it this week, which I'm excited about. So I got an email from Jeff. Thank you to him for listening, because he says he listens to the show and enjoys Doug, and who wouldn't enjoy Doug. And just a testament that Mat Talk Online is doing a great job. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast, but we appreciate that Jeff is such a diehard fan of the show. But he sent an email, and it was a great email about how he stopped by a diner, and it was a great story about Gable putting his gold medal on someone at a medical center, and it really lifted that person's spirit, and saying that Gable was an even better person than an athlete, which we both know.
Yeah.
But he said, by the way, I can't wait to hear the story about Doug at the rest stop during your journey to my neck of the woods in 2002 at the NCAA Championships in Albany. You've alluded to it a few times, but I've never heard the tale. I'm sure it's a good one. I thought we had told this story at one point, and so maybe along the podcast he had missed what the story
that might have
was.
been before we had the podcast.
It could have been. That's certainly a possibility before the podcast started.
It's out of the past.
Well,
but things still apply.
It does. So we're actually coming up on the 15-year anniversary.
I get reminded of it every year, in fact.
Well, we're coming up on the 15-year anniversary. So in 2017, that would be 15 years since Doug went absolutely ballistic on us in Albany, New York. So really the story is we're coming back from the Albany NCAA tournament 2002. Cale Sanderson goes undefeated, 159-0. Tommy Rollins beats Steve Mocco, pinned by Roan in the finals. He was down by, I think, 13 points, 12 points, 13, somewhere in there. Comes back and gets a pin. Incredible NCAA tournament finals. Coming back, we're traveling back to Cedar Falls, Iowa, of course, and we have your red truck, if I recall right.
Yep.
Has a topper. Yep. And Jeff and Bo, your son Bo and Jeff, a friend of ours, were sleeping in the back. Probably illegal, but oh well. We're going on the way back.
No, that's perfectly legal.
To sleep back there in the truck bed?
Can't do it in a towed trailer.
Oh, okay. Well, we were doing that. We saw Bruce Baumgartner. Bruce Baumgartner, two-time Olympic champion, got a 12-pack of donuts. You don't believe it's him, but I absolutely know it was him because we talked to him. And we were not lollygagging, we were just taking our time. It was a time to get a break, and there was a snowstorm ahead. All of a sudden, Doug comes back in, and he is livid at us. He is about to lose it on us. He says, "You know I don't take that long at rest stops." And for the first time in my life, I thought someone could actually physically kill me. They were that upset. And Seth, I mean, am I accurate in all this?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, and then Seth called you out on it, and it was hard not to laugh back there, but I was just like, don't say anything to upset the monster. And so I would say for a good hour, I was very quiet in the back of that seat. So thank you to Jeff and his son Grant for visiting the museum, asking about that great tale. It probably involved a few curse words that we didn't want to throw in this
you guys
program.
Did you understand lake effect snow at that time?
Probably not. Well, it was 02.
They
We're in our
could get
20s.
3 foot of snow and just that quick.
I know, but we're young, Doug. I mean, didn't you make mistakes when you were in your early 20s?
Yeah, you missed my earlier rant because you weren't with us in New York City.
Yeah, that's true. That's another story.
That was another story, yeah.
We'll make sure we tell the New York City tale because you went ballistic there,
That's
too.
almost got to be Seth or Bo telling that one.
Yeah, that's very true. On a good note, I saw you walk into the West Gym for the UNI Old Dominion meet. It was fun to see you there.
It was fun to be there. And, you know, when I went to that Virginia Tech meet, I thought if it's going to be like this, I'm not going to come around. So I thought, well, I'll give him one more shot, and I was glad I did because that was just a complete almost 180-degree turnaround from what it was against Virginia Tech. Now, I realized maybe the competition wasn't as good, but they looked like they wanted to compete. Against Virginia Tech, it looked like they didn't want to compete. So
yeah,
it was exciting to be part of that on Sunday.
And I agree with your take on that, because
I think
a fun
Doug Schwab said the same thing pretty much in the paper, with being a little more diplomatic, of course. But
yeah, it was in you and I, especially at 184 pounds. My goodness, I don't know if you remember that match with Jack Deco.
Oh yeah,
who's an All-American as a freshman, hasn't been since then, but
he's
really,
been a qualifier for 2 years.
He has been, yeah, qualifier for 2 years, and he got completely taken out of that particular match, 184 pounds. Completely taken out. Drew Foster really deserves credit. Won 6-1. And it's one of those 6-1s where it's not like maybe it was 1-1 and you got a late takedown and back points. It was from the opening whistle. He dominated that match. Deco wasn't even in it. And I was surprised, because I thought Deco was going to come in and really dominate that match, and I was wrong. And you're right, they did have some good offensive output. Old Dominion's good in scrambles. I don't know if you noticed, they were good. You and I would get on the shot. A lot of times you were able to spin around, and you and I wasn't able to finish clean in a lot of ways. That's a trend in wrestling, and it is hard to score. But Old Dominion was salty in that area. They did a pretty good job of defending some of those shots. But you and I stuck with it, and they kept shooting and kept shooting. And there were a couple matches where Old Dominion didn't even shoot. They really didn't. They didn't really get on that offense, and it was you and I guys. And even some of the scores are a little suspect, where a guy like Max Thompson won by a major decision. But, hey, it was bigger than that score.
Wasn't that close.
It wasn't that close as far as the output of that particular match. Dylan Peters came out on fire, got a pin right away. Josh Albert got a major decision. Hodges won 6-0. Thompson, major decision. Peyton Moore, 8-2. Bryce Steyert beat the number 14th ranked wrestler Selden Wright 3-2.
That's the guy I like.
Who's that?
Steyert.
Yeah, I know you do. Taylor Lujan, 10-5. So up and down, 6-1, 6-0. Those are pretty convincing scores against a team that has had some depth. That you have two ranked guys in the top 20, and you win both those matches. That's a pretty good indication of where you and I was in that particular meet. And you're right. It's no Virginia
came to
Tech.
wrestle.
Yeah, it's no Virginia Tech, but if you go on those benchmark matches,
sure.
on you weren't favored in either of those two, and you came out with wins. That says a lot.
That says a lot for what preparation they did do.
It sure does. So you and I has the UNI Open this weekend, and we get a chance to talk to the coach of one of those teams that will be here. Brian Smith will be on our final segment. He's the head wrestling coach at Missouri, who's also in the MAC. If you have a chance to get to the UNI Open, do not miss the chance, because Jaden Cox, two-time NCAA champion, bronze medalist at the 2016 Rio Olympics, will be competing at the Uni Dome.
Well, is Keith Young this weekend too?
Oh, I think it is. I think Keith Young probably is this weekend.
Because you and I were going to work one of those matches.
I know, we gotta do that one of these years.
We got to discover this.
Yeah, we have to. I can't do it because we have the Hawkeye Nationals, which will be at Young Arena as well, so the Gable Museum will be open for that. So it's good that there's a lot of wrestling going on. But if you are a fan of competition, you got to watch Jaden Cox this weekend. Just get up to the Unidome, because how often do you get to see a returning medalist at college?
World medalist.
Well, yeah, Olympic medalist at Rio.
And defending NCAA champion.
And defending NCAA champion, and won it as a true freshman. So a guy that you want to go see and compete. And, of course, you and I being there. But Missouri sending their full team up is going to be a lot of fun. So we get a chance to talk with Brian Smith of Missouri. We also get a chance to talk with Eric Keller of Wartburg. We talk to him probably, I'd say, twice a year, once before the season starts or right in the heart of the season, and then a lot of times once after he wins the NCAA tournament. So we talked to him after the tournament last year. So I'm
thinking he's probably open to the same thing.
Probably is. I'm sure he wants to be on talking about victory in March. So we'll talk to Eric about that. And I think the thing I want to know from Eric is what's driving this team. We know what drove him that second year last year was they got beat against Augsburg and didn't score bonus points, and he burned all his Hershey Pennsylvania gear and didn't want to see any of that. And I sent him a Hershey's candy bar to remind him that, hey, you got motivation. I don't know what's making him tick right now. So we get a chance to break that down with Eric Keller and learn about him and his team. And he gets better all the time as a coach, and really think he's a great fit for what Wartburg's doing. So big Eric Keller fan. You're following wrestling right now. It's still in those early stages, but we talked about UNI and what's coming up. Iowa State, a team that is one of your...
What's the Hawkeye Nationals?
Go for it.
What's the Hawkeye Nationals, Kyle?
It's a tournament that is at Young Arena, and we get to...
Who's in it?
Oh, it's just kids.
Kids tournament.
Yeah,
okay.
They have a Badgerland Nationals and other things, so get a chance to watch that. I was going to mention here Iowa State, who you're a fan of, 1-3 on the season, and I don't know if you've been following the results.
Well, it doesn't seem like they got their A team in there yet. I don't know.
Not yet, but a lot of Oklahoma State doesn't have all their full lineup yet either. Joe Smith's out, and a lot of teams may not have their A team. So I'm just surprised that Northern Colorado was so close, 19-16. They lost to Wyoming, 19-15. But there's going to be some guys coming in. You're right; it's not the full lineup yet, but I don't want to be concerned about Iowa State because I want them to be a powerhouse. I want them to be strong. I want that to be a thriving trifecta in the
we've
state.
discussed that before, and Kevin seems to focus more on the end of the season.
He does.
And I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but-
just the way he is.
Yeah.
You know, this is just all preliminary to what comes at the last 3 weeks of the season.
I agree, and at the end of the season, but you need to build on that so you have some confidence. And so I understand that philosophy, and you can't just...
What is it? Downey hasn't even wrestled yet, right?
Oh, he's wrestled.
Has he?
Yeah, he's competed, but...
He didn't against Wyoming, I
don't think he did. I think you're right about that. Did not compete against Wyoming in that particular dual meet. I'll check here. Yeah, he did not. So that probably could have made a little bit of a difference.
Basically one match either way, and it would have won.
Yeah, depending on if he went at 184 or 197. Wyoming won by major decision at 197 over Joe Teague. So if they put him there and that flip-flops,
Is he trying to go to 84?
Yeah, that's his. He wants to get down to 184 and compete at that weight class. So I think it's probably a better fit for him. So there's some things that Iowa State has that will allow them to improve. But I know,
How about Harrington? What's the story there?
I don't know. I know that in the wrestle-off he got pinned and hurt his neck. So haven't really heard what's gone on there for him. So we'll keep tabs on what happens and how he's making progress. I would like to get an update on that. So we'll continue to find out with a Waterloo West wrestler. Hawkeyes looking good. Beat Purdue handily, and wouldn't expect anything less. Hawkeyes always are that team that
They start
does
out
well.
strong.
Yeah. They
got
do.
their boys ready to go from the
They're
get-go.
always ready to go, and that's a hallmark of the Iowa program. They don't have that mentality that it's just end of the year. Everything's important to that program.
Well, yeah. You could call them all together in July and get the same results.
Probably.
I think
Yeah.
they focus on the year-round ability, and they do it.
Yeah,
So,
they sure do. And beat, of course, they beat Iowa Central 55-0, beat Cornell College 45-0, and then opened up with a Big Ten win, 34-3 over Purdue. And looking here, you do have the Keith Young coming up Saturday, December 3rd. So thanks to Scott for getting us that information. Starts at 10 a.m. But I wish we need to get on that, Doug.
Well, I'm going to go up
table
there
over
for a while anyway.
Are you?
Then probably go down to the UNI Open for a while.
Yeah, you have a full day of wrestling, and I'm sure
That time of the year.
Yeah, it is that time of the year. Oklahoma State looked good. I got to say, even though I still think Penn State's going to win the NCAA tournament, Oklahoma State's doing some things early season to give a barometer that shows me that they truly are a team that can be in the title hunt. Of course they are, but you kind of want to see some data that says, hey, what are the trends that are going to allow them to win the NCAA tournament? Joe Smith's not wrestling, and then they smashed.
Injured or just thinking about academically sitting out?
No, I think he's just probably trying to get his weight down and maybe just trying to ease into the season. Don't know exactly what it is, but I know that he was a little heavy going.
Well, he was kind of hung out for a while last year, didn't he?
Well, he was a true freshman last year, and they didn't know if they wanted to.
Well, they didn't insert him until later in the season, right?
Correct, but they had someone there at the time, and he ended up being ineligible and went away, and there was some problems with him with some disciplinary, and so they had to bring in Joe Smith for that particular competition. So not quite sure, but we'll see how that plays out for Joe Smith. Excited to get him in at 157 pounds. He did not compete against Minnesota, but have a chance to see him hopefully later in the season. Some good upsets over the course of the weekend. As we mentioned, Bryce Steyert beat Selden Wright of Old Dominion. Drew Foster beat Jack Deco. Austin Schaefer of Oklahoma State beat Michael Krells, number 5 of Minnesota. And I think that's always interesting when you have early season like that where, hey, Minnesota's been a powerhouse. This is the post-Jay Robinson era, and it's not looking great right now for Minnesota. I know that even if Jay was there, it wasn't going to be a great team. It wasn't a championship team, but you always saw some hope out of that Minnesota team. Not sure what we can expect out of it, but continue to see how that's going to transpire within the post-Jay Robinson era.
See, yeah, you know how I am about Russell. I just think that program in Minnesota since Russell left hasn't been the same.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. Joe Russell is just he's one of my favorite people. I just love the way he handles himself and talks so matter-of-factly, doesn't try to, he's just a true guy.
Yeah. So you think he made that much of a difference?
I think he did.
Okay. Well, and we'll see what he can do at George Mason. Certainly a tough program to be successful, but we'll see if he can take it to that level and be a success, because I think at a George Mason, success is top 15. Of course, you're not going to be able to win it at George Mason. There's just too many financial scenarios and other programs that you're not going to be able to get to that level. But I do like Joe. I do think he has a personality that did fit in with Jay, because Jay was that hard militaristic guy, and I think Joe was more of that teddy bear and the guy that was just...
Maybe that's why I liked him so
maybe
much.
He did. Maybe
he's
that's
just a big teddy bear. But he's not. He knows the sport in and out. There's no doubt about it. So.
Yeah, sure does.
I just think he brings something to a team that it's one of those intangible things.
Yeah, and it's all part of the whole when you have that dynamic.
Yep.
And just like when Jay Robinson left with Gable, they
lost a little bit.
Yeah, they lost some steam out of that.
Yep.
I think Jay was that important to the Iowa wrestling program during that run. They won 7 in a row. Jay left. They won 2. And then there was a 4-year drought. Now, there were some other things that went into that, but I think having Jay there certainly made a difference. And you can ask any head wrestling coach that those assistants do matter as far as how the team develops. Excited about this. We have Wartburg head wrestling coach. He's in his 3rd season as the sole head wrestling coach. He was co-head wrestling coach with Jim Miller for a few of those years, but we get a chance to talk with Eric Keller, who was an All-American at UNI, and now the head wrestling coach at Wartburg. Eric Keller next on the mat.
1650 The Fan, KCNZ.
We are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. We have Eric Keller on the program, head wrestling coach at Wartburg College, also an All-American for the University of Northern Iowa. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, when we had you on last time, we were talking about your sweet threads and how you dress. How's your wardrobe going? You feel like you got a new collection going into the season?
Well, the holidays are coming up. Hopefully we'll see what Santa brings. I can add a few things.
Who helps you with that? Your wife, Jim Miller? Does he kind of give you a few tips? Because Miller's going for that bald look, so maybe he wants you to go that direction too.
My days are numbered, man. That's a reality for me. But no, my wife, man, she's pretty on top of making sure I somewhat look appropriate when I go out of the house.
Yeah. Well, excited about this season. You haven't had a dual meet yet, but you've had some tournaments so far. How much of that is your philosophy that you like to start out with tournaments at the beginning of the year and then start with duels? Is that by design, or is that something that just kind of happens in the scheduling process?
I think it gives you a chance to learn a lot. You get several matches in throughout the day, and you quickly learn all the things that got to get better at in a hurry, and so, we had the Luther Open. And we actually wrestled one duel. We wrestled Simpson about a week ago, and then we were up at Concordia 2 weeks ago. So we're looking forward to getting into duels. We got some duels we got 7 duels in the next 3 weeks. So
yeah.
But no, it's by design. It gives us a chance to every guy to get opportunity and get a chance to see what we got to get better at.
That's right. And how could I forget the Simpson duel? That was where I kind of made mention to you that you went back to your hometown of Indianola. Was that fun to go back down there and be where you grew up and wrestled your high school days?
It is. It's good to go there. It's good to see people. There's always people that show up that get a chance to talk and catch up with people you haven't seen in a long time, so that's always good.
Now, and talking about the schedule, it is unique in that a lot of Division I programs, they have a couple tournaments and then they have some exclusive duels. The way it's set up for you guys, even with this weekend, you have 3 duels in a day. You have the desert duels, you have the national duels. So there's a lot of competition where you get that feel like it's a tournament-style feel. Does that really pay dividends for you guys, or is that just something that kind of happens and you go with it?
We like it. It gives you a chance, duels especially. When you have multiple duels throughout the day, going back to opportunity, you get a chance to have several guys get in there and get an opportunity to compete. But the dual side of things too, you're not as spread out as you are in open tournaments. You're all right there together collectively, and it's more of a team atmosphere at duels. And so I like that part of it.
Probably a good way to see how they handle their weight cutting too, isn't it?
Doug just asked how it's probably a good way to see how they handle weight cutting.
For sure, yeah, no, for sure. The 1 hour weigh-in, the first couple times you do it, obviously, it's an adjustment. It's different than tournaments where it's a 2 hour weigh-in, and a lot of times, it's 3 or 4 hours before guys end up actually competing. So, there's a certain element to that too, and I think the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more guys level off. But it's all a learning process as you go, and I guess for us, it's the thing that we talk about most is let's make sure that we get things down to a science. Let's not make the same mistake twice. If something doesn't work out quite how you wanted it to, whether it's what you ate or your warm-up or just whatever, make sure you're making adjustments and you're keeping track of how you feel and what went right and what went wrong, so we can make this down exactly how it should be.
We are on the mat with Eric Keller, head wrestling coach at Wartburg College. Eric, 2 years ago, you guys placed second at the NCAA tournament in Hershey, Pennsylvania. You used that as motivation going into last season, and you won the NCAA tournament. What's keeping you motivated going into this season? I know that you want to win the NCAA championship, and that's part of the culture at Wartburg, but is there something driving you going into your third season?
Well, we talked about it, at the end of last year. We got back from the national tournament and had a meeting, and a lot of the teams that got trophies last year returned about everybody, and I think just letting guys know that, we got some guys back, but so does everybody else. And, we got to get better, and that was kind of the challenge at that point is what are we going to do to make sure that we can be better? We got to be better. And so that motivates me, and just, honestly, just the day-to-day process for us, it's trying to help guys get better every single day and every single week. And I think when you keep the focus on that and each individual guy getting better, you're motivated. I'm motivated every day coming in, getting an opportunity to help someone grow, someone get better, and you're starting to see it. We're starting to see it from week-to-week competition. Guys are making the adjustments and making changes, and it's starting to show. And when you start to see that progress, the light bulb comes on for them. They get excited. That's the fun part about coaching.
And I would think, too, motivation that you didn't have the finals performance you wanted last season. I would think that drives you a little bit going into this year.
No doubt about it. There's of all those, we had 5 finalists and 1 champion. There's no doubt about it. And when you're that close for a national championship, it tears your heart out when guys don't get what they want, and that motivates me, just us being the best we can possibly be motivates me. We're not there. We're not even close to that. So coming in every day with that mindset that we got to get better, and it's a long season, but that sense of urgency, I want it now. You know, I mean, I want guys to get better, and I want them to get better now. And you know, I think guys are bought in, and they're motivated to get better, make changes. And when you have coachable guys like that, it's fun. It's fun to go into the room when guys want to get better and they want to learn and they want to make changes. It's fun.
You have a great storyline. At 157 pounds, Logan Thompson was at the University of Iowa, made the transfer to Wartburg. How's that transition going for him?
It's going good. He's enjoying it. You know, I mean, you can kind of see that he's having fun with it. He's having some success. You know, he was the Iowa Conference Wrestler of the Week last week. He's beat 2 ranked guys, and he's undefeated in Division III. So, you know, he's really found a home. He fits in really well with the team, and on the mat, he's doing well. He's having success. So, yeah, it's been fun to have him. He's pretty consistent every single day. I mean, you know what you're going to get. He comes in, he puts his head down and works. That's him. That's his nature, and that's his personality. And you know, it's good to have that, because a guy like him, that mentality rubs off.
Jim Miller, of course, the coach before you, and you were co-head coaches, made a comment about Mark Kist, who came from Iowa State, came to Wartburg, and his thought was that Mark would feel like there's less pressure coming because he went from a D1 to a Division III, and he found the exact opposite. He felt like, hey, every time you step out there because you went Division I, you are expected to win. Have you had that conversation with Logan on what the expectations are and the pressures that come from Division I versus Division III, and expecting to win every time out?
A little bit. You know, I mean, I guess with him, it's been more about the angle of let's have fun. You know, I mean, it's wrestling. You know, I mean, don't make it life or death. You know, there's wrestling's important. Don't get me wrong. We want to win every time we compete. Believe me, but also helping him understand and keep things in perspective and the big picture of things. And I think that's helped. You know, I think that's helped him have a mentality of you know, because he's going to work. He's going to do all those things, you know, but keeping it light and keeping it fun, I think, is the key for him.
Eric DeVos, another guy that I'm excited to see where his season can go, because he reached the finals last year and didn't get that goal. Where do you see him in this journey as far as just making that progress to being a national champion for Wartburg?
He's highly motivated. You know, I mean, that's one of those guys I was talking about that just it haunts me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it still haunts me to this day. I mean, there's a lot of times I'll let my mind wander and I'll think about some of those final matches, and you know, his is one of them. But you know, he's turned the page and he's motivated, and he's a guy that comes in high energy every single day. He's a leader in our team, leader in our program, and you know, I think his mentality is I'm going to do absolutely everything in my power to make sure I get what I want. You know, and he approaches every single day like that. And guys that come in like they're on a mission, I mean, it's visible. There's no mistaking it. And he comes in every day like he's on a mission. And you know, no one works harder than that guy. So
is the first semester lineup going to look similar to the second semester? I know a lot of times there's adjustments that go in second semester. What's the difference between now and what's it going to look like in March?
We got some guys coming that semester. Kenny Martin, he'll wrestle his final semester, his senior year. And then Andrew Steyer will be back probably either for the Desert Duels in Vegas or shortly after National Duels somewhere in there. So there's a couple guys that are coming back. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, everybody that's here, that'll be our lineup.
Kenny Martin in particular, you have a national champion coming back, but in watching him, he has that style where he wrestles from one knee, and just philosophically, you see that a lot in wrestling right now. What's your take on that style of wrestling? And I know it's effective because he's winning matches, but is that a good way to wrestle?
I think it kind of depends on the guy. You know, I mean, I think strategically for him, it depends on who he's wrestling, if he wrestles down like that. Because his style, I mean, he's got an upper body style. He's got a explosive style. So it kind of depends on strategically who he's wrestling. And you know, I mean, another guy like Campo can wrestle pretty effectively down there and keep a high pace. You know, and so you know, I think fan wise, it kind of depends on how guys use that style. If it's slowing everything down and it's not exciting to watch, then no, you know, it's not fan friendly. You know, which is what you want in wrestling. I mean, we want to build wrestling. We want to build the excitement and give fans what they want. You know, so I think it kind of depends on how guys use that style and if they open up out of it or they're trying to close everything off.
Yeah, is that something you care about as a coach? Do you care about the style that Wartburg brings to the mat, or is it more about wins and losses?
No, we want an exciting style. There's no doubt about it. We want to put a product out there that people want to see and that's fun for people to watch. But having said that, we also want to keep in perspective of what guys do. We're not trying to change up a bunch of things that guys have done their whole entire lives. We're trying to take what they do and make it more effective and, make the changes that got to be made for them to grow and get better. But we're not trying to revamp everything that guys do.
On the mat with Eric Keller. He was an All-American at the University of Northern Iowa, and now he's the head wrestling coach at Wartburg College. Eric, when are you going to give the fans what they want? You can talk about exciting style, but when are we going to get Wartburg versus Northern Iowa in a dual meet?
You know what, man? I don't know that it'll ever happen.
Really? You just go right there like that? Yeah.
I mean, I like those guys. I have a very good relationship with them. And, I think competitively it's probably better that we don't compete just because I think it's easier to maintain that relationship when you're not competing against each other.
Now, could I at least get you on record as saying, hey, when we have our new Gable Teaching Center open, could we maybe get 3 exhibition matches against some of your reserves and Northern Iowa reserves and just kind of get some excitement for the sport? Maybe something like that.
To help the museum.
All right, we'll talk about that as we get closer to that. But Wartburg, you moved your winning streak to 189 in a row against Iowa Conference opponents. I know that it keeps going on and on and on, but how cool would that be if you can hit 200?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's obviously every conference duel is important. It's not just another duel. And helping our guys understand that. I mean, it's part of the education process when they come here, and letting them know that we're going to get everybody's best shot every single time we wrestle, and that's what we want. But, it's a pretty cool streak, the fact that it's gone on that long, and it's one that we want to make sure that we maintain, and we hold it pretty special.
All right, I want to make sure we have time for this. Haven't done this the last few shows, but we want to make sure that we get your take on this. We've asked, I'm going to say 5 or 6 different guests what their wrestling Mount Rushmore would look like. What would your wrestling Mount Rushmore look like, Eric?
Oh, man. You should have given me a heads up on this.
Well,
one.
But that's no fun because then you got to be on the fly and you have to be put on the spot. And, I mean, you don't have to put Millboy on there. You don't have to put Jim, but I know he'll be crushed if he's not.
Well, absolutely, you got to put Millboy on there, no doubt about it.
All right, so that's number 1.
Well, you got to have Gable.
All right.
You got to have Kale.
Okay, 3.
And then I don't know, man.
The 4th is always the hardest, because you want to give it to like 10 different people, but a lot of times it's just hard to come up with one.
And I'm not. You're the guy I always get a hold of whenever I have a question about the history or some kind of statistics about guys. So, I don't know. Can you be my hotline?
Well, I think just out of courtesy, I think it should be Jeff Swenson.
There you have it.
Yeah, I mean, balance it out. Battle of the Bergs. It would just be a perfect wrestling Mount Rushmore for Eric Keller.
Way to close it up.
Yeah.
And I got a huge amount of respect for him. So.
Yeah. But as we look forward, one of the things that I notice with your team is that there's not a guaranteed guy that's like a Byron Tate, where you can say this guy's going to win the national tournament. Is that a theme that you bring through to your guys? Because getting guys to the finals and winning national championships individually is a big part of how you win it as a team.
Yeah, I mean, guys come here because they want to have a chance to be on a team that wins the championship, and they want to win their own championship. That's why they're here. That's why guys come to Wartburg, and so. That's the ultimate goal for guys that are in our room. And but honestly, I mean, it's like I said earlier, it's the process. It's day to day. It's keeping the focus on the actual practice at hand and the next competition that we have. And that's how we've done it. And by the end of the year, the day growth accumulates to guys being in the national championship finals and having a chance to win the title. So. That's the goal, and that's what we want for our guys, and that's what we're working for every single day.
You have an interesting dual meet that may not look interesting to some people, but I think it is. On the 18th of January, you wrestle Nebraska Wesleyan, who came into the Iowa Conference. They just started their program this season. When you go up against a team where you guys are the high bar, you guys have been to the mountaintop, you guys have won national championships, going against a team like that, what do you do for a dual meet like that?
Well, I mean, as many chances as we have to get other guys in there, we'll do it. No, I mean, we'll wrestle other guys. So that's a duel where we may get a chance to wrestle a couple other guys. But we don't take anything for granted. We don't overlook anybody, and we assume everybody's going to be good. So we're going to be ready to go to be our best, and be ready to go.
All right. One of the things that I think would be a great promotion as we close out this segment is you see those Rolling Forward shirts they throw at your meets and at the UNI meets. Maybe it should be a Rolling Forward Eric Keller volleyball knee pad. That the one you wore, we talked about that. Wouldn't that be cool to have it and have your picture on it, maybe signed by Eric, and throw those into the crowd? What do you think?
You just don't see enough of those these days.
I know. It was such a great look that you perfected along with Todd Beckerman. You guys really owned that look. And
Beckerman, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about Beckerman wearing one of those.
I would just love to see that get brought back into style. So you have your own style. Let's bring it back, and we want to see Wartburg do great things, and really appreciate being on this segment.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, that was great. That was with Eric Keller, head wrestling coach at Wartburg College. Up next, we have the head wrestling coach at the University of Missouri. He'll have a lot to say. Brian Smith next on the mat.
1650 The Fan, KCNZ.
Are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I'm Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. Doug brought up a good point to mention that at the Old Dominion meet, that Ken Gallagher was the honorary captain, so congratulations to Ken Gallagher, who had a great wrestling career at the University of Northern Iowa. Our final guest is Brian Smith, head wrestling coach at the University of Missouri. You're going to see the Missouri Tigers along with Olympic bronze medalist Jaden Cox at the Unidome this Saturday for the UNI Open. How are you, Brian?
Doing great. How you doing?
Hey, good. It's going to be so much fun to have Missouri up here. You guys have a great team this season, headlined by your superstar Jaden Cox, who had a bronze medal at 189 pounds. As you have watched this transpire and the Jaden Cox phenomenon at Missouri, how do you explain what Jaden Cox has meant to not only wrestling but the University of Missouri going into this season?
Well, he's brought a lot of attention to our program. We've been very, very successful, but when you get a kid on the Olympic team, it kind of opens the eyes of a lot of other fans, people that are fans of just watching the Olympics, and they're like, oh, this kid's from our state. So there's just so many more people that have interest in coming out to watch a duel at Mizzou and interest in our program, from boosters to fans. So it's been great. But Jaden, of course, is more than just a wrestler, with his personality, with his talents, off the mat. That it's, I know the next cover of, and there's the main story of Mizzou Magazine, which goes out to 200,000 alumni. It's the main school one, is Jaden on the cover, and that's next month. So, that tells you how important his, winning that Olympic bronze medal was to the university. That he's a young man that they want to put on the cover of their alumni magazine.
Is he still getting a lot of speaking requests?
He does, but we shut it down so much that we slowed it down. We just kept telling people he's in class right now and push things to later in January and February and then after nationals too. So it has slowed down a little, but he, constantly, when he does go out and talk somewhere, somebody else that's there wants him to come talk at one of their events. So it's trying to control that, but we've done a good job.
How's the transition been going from the Olympics now to taking a month off, which was self-imposed by you as the coach, and now he's getting back into the folk style season? How is he transitioning back into college wrestling?
He's doing fine. He's working really hard in the room. He had his first two duels were against Beasley and then the kid from Virginia Tech, who's ranked third in the country. So it was like number 3 and number 9 or 10 in the country. And, didn't score the way he wanted to, but he has tough opponents. So I think he needs a tournament. So this tournament this weekend, just where he can get 4 and 5 matches in a day and get opening up on people and get his offense going and get back into folk style. His top is still great, but he just needs to get his leg attacks going. And, it's a little different because they can go out of bounds if he gets to the legs and all that. Where in freestyle, they stay in the center and they stay in there with him. and they're hand fighting back with him, he's not getting that reaction as much from these other people.
And isn't there something to that, just mentality-wise, where you go and you want to watch an Olympic bronze medalist, and just because of the credential, you kind of think, hey, he's supposed to just crush people almost in a minute, and that's, as you know, that's not the case. Has he felt a little of that pressure?
I don't know if he's felt that, but I think he's put it on himself because he wants to have a great season, obviously for himself, but for the team. You know, we have a really solid team this year that has a chance to finish on the podium as a team, you know, a top 4 team, and he wants that to happen. He wants to win the national title as a team and an individual. So the expectation is I got to go out and score a lot of bonus points. We put that expectation on our team, and he's put it on there. And so, of course, his first match, he beats the kid 5-0, but he's frustrated by it because he wants to score more points. So I do think he adds that pressure to himself, but that's a good thing because when things start clicking, it's going to be all good for him. And I saw that happen last year. He got a little frustrated halfway through the season, and then as the season progressed, it just got better and better until he hit the Nationals, and he looked awesome. And he understands that, too, that things will start clicking.
We are on the mat with Brian Smith, head wrestling coach at the University of Missouri. I love what you do with your program. You do some really innovative things. You had a wrestling meet on a stage. You had a practice at the student union. Where are you coming up with these ideas, man? This is great.
Well, I just, you want to get we practice up on the 4th floor where a lot of people in the athletic department haven't even seen our practice facility because it's kind of hidden up here. It's enormous. It's probably about 17,000 square feet total with weight room and 2 wrestling rooms and offices and everything up here. But it doesn't get seen. So people don't walk by and can look in and watch a practice. So I always like to do a practice either 2 years ago, we did one outside before a homecoming football game, right on the grass outside the football stadium. This year, I was looking to do one by the student union where all the students are, and it just was a little slanted and all that. And the guy that runs the student cafeteria area in there, I'm friends with, he said, hey, why don't you do it right here? I'll move all the tables for you. And he moved a ton of tables. It's a huge area, but he moved a big bunch of tabled area that fit about 2 full mats.
Wow.
And we just decided to have practice in the middle. I mean, there's students studying. There was probably, he said, 20-something thousand people come and go throughout the day there. And so we had it in an hour and a half block there. We had a practice, and it drew a lot of attention. I mean, there must have been 15 media people, local, and, some people from the state media coming out just to watch it because they thought it was a neat idea. So that draws attention. But then the students. I delivered coffee to students 2 days before it, where my friend gave me all the coffee. He was pouring the coffee, and I would hand it to students, and just talking with the student body and letting them know about our wrestling program. And a lot of them knew about Jaden and were interested and said they're coming out to matches. But it's just a way for me to get on campus and meet the students that aren't, the athletes, but they follow the athletes. And the sport of wrestling doesn't get always the coverage like a football and basketball. So if you sit back and say, I don't understand why they're not coming, then it's your own fault. You got to get out there and hustle. And that's something I'm not afraid to do.
What was the response by the students? You gave a little bit, but did you kind of get some post-game feedback on how that workout went?
Oh, the workout was unbelievable. Lots of people were. I talked to like 3 or 4 professors that just kind of walked in and stood there, and I went up and talked to them during the practice, and they loved it. And they said, hey, we've been following your team coach and following Jaden. So for me, it's getting to, have somewhat of a relationship with the regular school, the university part. I'm usually only on the athletic side, and now I get to talk with professors, and they get to see our side of it and the way our guys train. So I think it's really important. But the response was unbelievable. They were already talking about, boy, I wonder if we could put baskets in here and have a basketball practice. And so, that's a good thing that it went that well that they're talking about other, if they could do another sport in there.
Yeah, what other ideas do you have that you haven't disclosed that you could maybe give us a little idea of what's in your brain?
I don't know. Usually it just hits me and I run with it.
Yeah.
And I just try to make it happen right then. I'm not a very patient person with things. It's like, hey, I want this to happen. But if you talk to my administrators, they're like, all right, hold on. We got to make sure this is all right.
Yeah. Now,
I've had sledgehammers to walls before, and they're like, you can't knock that wall down. It might be. I'm like, oh, we have to be able to. the next day they'll have engineers there. But
Yeah.
that's the fun of it.
Well, it is
having those ideas and having people. Now they look at me and they think, well, he's not all crazy. Some of his ideas have been pretty good, so let's listen. So it's been good.
Now, as far as that goes, as far as just how many touches it takes to get someone involved, have you kind of seen what it takes to really get someone engaged in your program that makes sure it's a long-term fit?
Yeah, it's definitely, you just can't call people up or say, hey, I want you to support our program. You've got to develop that relationship. And I probably speak every 2 weeks or 3 weeks at some kind of function that is Mizzou-based, not wrestling-based, but Mizzou or Rotary clubs in the city of Columbia, or just any kind of function like that. Any kind of speaking engagement. I know I'm probably up there in the top 2 or 3 requested coaches for to come speak at events, and at times that sounds really great. But then when you're speaking every few weeks at different events, it wears on you. But I know when I do that. I spoke at the Kansas City club the week of the Virginia Tech duel, and I was amazed at 10 or 15 people telling me they're coming down for the duel or they're going to make it out to whatever duel, and they love having me out there every year. And because of it, they follow our sport, and they weren't former wrestlers; they just become wrestling fans from me taking the time to drive out to Kansas City and speak to them once a year, and they get to know the program. You have to do those things in our sports, in our sport to grow it. I think it's important.
We are on the mat with Brian Smith, head wrestling coach at the University of Missouri. Missouri will be in Cedar Falls, Iowa for the UNI Open this Saturday. And Brian, whenever you have a team or you have wrestlers throughout the nation, you pick favorites. And my favorite guy on your team is Daniel Lewis, 165 pounds. I love how he rides. I love his style. I love that he has this control style. From what we saw last year, has he improved on those skills in the top game?
He's definitely improved in top. It's harder for him because everybody knows that, and so not too many people are going to choose down, and I don't think anybody has yet. But he still, I don't think the Virginia Tech kid chose down, and yet we had 6 minutes of ride, 6 minutes and 20 riding time, 13-0. So he's good there. He's really, really good. The thing that I'm pushing him and trying to make him evolve is that he's going to have to cut people, and he's got to get. He's actually really good on his feet, and he can get to great leg attacks, and he also has good defense where if people shoot on him, he has ways of putting people on their back that way too. That I've told him, I said, when people are shutting down and that you're not getting the stall calls, even though you're working really hard, then you got to decide to cut them sometimes and score more on your feet because that's going to open the match up, and he's doing that. I know the other day in practice he was exhausted, and I asked him, hey, how'd the day go? He's like, I cut my guy a lot. I was cutting a lot and pushing myself on my feet. So he's evolving definitely from last year. He's definitely improved.
Willie Miklas was Southeast Polk. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He injured his knee in the Virginia Tech duel, so he's not going to be able to wrestle this weekend. We're not sure how long he's going to be out, but he's definitely out at least 6 to 8 weeks. So we're going to just see on that. It happened a week or so ago, so he's still got some weeks to go.
And that's such a battle with injuries. As a coach, how do you manage that in a sport where there's contact and you can guarantee there's going to be injuries? That's got to be just very hard as a coach to deal with that problem every year.
It is. We've had, this year we've had more injuries than we've ever had, and it's just one of those years because we have historically not had many injuries. But, this year it's happening. You just got to be aware of it, but not aware of it. You run your practices. You have to get them in shape. You have to get them battle tested in practice. And they have to get the competitions, but you also have to be smart, how they're training. And I have a great staff from my trainer to my strength coach. They work together, and at the meetings, they're talking about things with, if it's a shoulder injury and working with the kids that are hurt and what they can do to help them. And even the freshmen that are coming in and what previous injuries they've had and strengthening those, or if somebody's having a problem now with something. Just doing it the best way you possibly can to be smart about it. You can't just throw people out there and just keep wrestling hard and you'll be all right. No, you can't do that anymore. These kids come in and they've wrestled a lot of hours, and you got to be smart about it.
Missouri is now in the Mid-American Conference along with Northern Iowa and other notable teams, Old Dominion, among others. Is there a part of you that wishes you were in the Big 12 after they merged with that Western Wrestling Conference, or is the MAC a good fit?
The MAC's been a great fit for us. I mean, when when I look at it this year, with Northern Iowa has a really good team. I watched their match with Virginia Tech, and they have some good young kids on the team and some experience with Peters and some of those other guys. So they bring a really quality team. And then you look at Central Michigan, they may have one of the better dual meet teams. I think they're up to 13 or 14 in the country already, and I'm looking at them going, man, that's going to be a heck of a duel too. So there's some quality teams, and then, of course, a lot of really good individuals. So the conference continues to get better and better, and I like it. I like it that we have teams from Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, New York, Virginia. You look at those states for the type of kids they're kicking out at the high school level. It's great for recruiting and great competition. So for us, it's been good on recruiting and good for competition.
All right, we've had Brian Smith on the program. Appreciate you coming on the show. Maybe we'll do something innovative. Maybe every Missouri against Northern Iowa match at the UNI Open, we have you guys wrestle in a cornfield. How does that sound? Might be something different.
Every time I've been up to Cedar Falls, it's been snowing, so I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not this Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think there will, so we'll try to help you with that. But
yeah, because I don't see myself in the cornfield in the cold. I'm a Florida boy, so I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, thanks for coming on the show. Always enjoy having you, and we'll see you in a few days.
All right, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
All right, that was Brian Smith, head wrestling coach at the University of Missouri.
Missouri.
I don't call it Missouri. I'll never do that, Doug. I never will. But I do like his innovative ideas, and I think there should be a wrestling practice at the mall. How does that sound?
He sounds like a ball of fun to me.
He would be a lot of fun. You got to come closer, Doug.
Around and come up. Just been fun to come up and just sit around and think up of things you can do.
Now, there's endless.
We used to do that in junior high a lot. Something different.
It's been a fun show for Doug Van Gelder, Eric Keller, Brian Smith. I'm Kyle Klingman. You've been listening to On the Mat.
You've been listening to On the Mat, the Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.